Hey guys, Alireza here and welcome back to another video. So in this one we are going to look at how we can create a very simple enemy AI. Here as you can see, it will chase us, and as soon as it catches us, it will shoot and kill the player. So let's jump right in and see how we can set this up. By the way, if you're interested in learning how to make a complete first-person zombie shooter game in Unreal Engine 5 using blueprints, check out my new course. In this course, you will start with the basics of Unreal Engine and blueprints. Then you will learn the animation framework in Unreal. Next, we'll create all the animations we need using control rigs, and finally, you will put everything together and build a fully functional game. It includes 7 weapons, a HUD, win and lose conditions, ammo pickups, enemy AI, and a wave-based game mode. Check out the link in the description. Alright guys, so here I am in Unreal 5.6 and I have opened up a third-person template with no variations. So here as you can see, when I play, I have my third-person character and that's all I have for now. The first step is to add some animations with a character to our project. So here just go to Mixamo, and if you don't have an account, create one, and after that in characters choose the characters you like. Here I am going with Leonard, and next after your character is ready we can choose the animations. So here as you can see we have our character, and now we need to assign animations to it. So we need 3 animations. First we need an idle, then a run, and then a shoot animation. So here search for idle, select one of the idle animations that you like. For example, let's go with this and see how it looks. It's a little cheesy, so let's go with another one. For example, this one. And yeah, I think it's looking better. Then download the animation. We need the animation and also the FBX. So set this on with skin and download the FBX file. Alright, after the download is finished, we need to download another one. Let's search for run and see what we have here. Maybe this can work for our project, and download the animation as well. This time we don't need the skin because we downloaded it in the previous animation, so set it on without skin. And here before you download, make sure you check this in place option here so it doesn't move when we use the animation in our blueprints. Now you can download without skin. And finally we need a pistol fire animation. So search for fire or maybe shoot. And yeah, this is the one I need. So let's grab this and download it too. Again without skin, and hit download. Alright, and now we have our assets here. So let's open up the folder, and here as you can see I have these FBX files. So let's create a folder here, name it enemy AI, open it up and drag your idle FBX, which has the skeletal mesh as well, into your content browser. Here all you need to check is to make sure you import the skeletal mesh, import the animations, and also do not import any materials. If you check this, it will create materials for you, but the materials are usually too complicated and we don't need them. We need to create our own simple materials. So now hit import, and now as you can see, we'll have the skeletal mesh, the idle animation, and the skeleton. Here we have the textures, so let's grab them and put them here. And then I'm going to create a very simple material using only this diffuse texture, but if you want to make more complicated materials, you can use these guys as well. So here I'm going to right click, create a material. Let's name it m_body. And that's it. That's all we need for now. So we only have a texture, and now let's assign it to our skeletal mesh and see how it looks. Yeah, great. This works for now, so let's keep this as it is. Next we need to assign the hair material, so let's go back, right click on this diffuse, create a material, m_hair, and for this we need to use an opacity. So here I'm going to select my material, change the blend mode on masked, then here plug my alpha to my opacity mask. And now here, as you can see, I have a masked material. Let's assign it to our hair material slot. Let's wait for it to compile, and after that you'll see that these artifacts will be gone and the material will look good. Yeah, now here as you can see, the hair is looking good and we are good to go. Now our skeletal mesh has a material, and also the animation has its material as well. Great, now we need to import the other animations. So let's go back to our downloads folder, grab the shooting, drag it in, and this time we only need to import animations. So here check import only animations, and here set the skeleton on the idle skeleton that you're using. And this is our shooting, and next we need our standard run. So again, drag it here, hit import, and here it is. Alright, next we need to attach a gun to his hand and also a mask to make him look cooler. So let's open up Fab, search for mask, set the price on free, and here as you can see we have a couple of cool masks. So just choose one of these guys and add it to the project. It's totally unnecessary, but I think it's worth it and it makes things look cool. So let's do it real quick. I downloaded the skull horror mask, and other than that we also need a pistol. So let's search for pistol and see what we can find. Again, let's go with free pistols and download one of these. For example, let's go with this. Great, let's set this on personal and add it to our project. Alright, great. Now this is my mask, and this is my pistol. Here as you can see everything is ready and we are ready to continue. Cool. Now the next step is to create the logic for our enemy. So let's go to our folder, right click, create a blueprint class, and we are going with a character. So select the character, name it BP underscore enemy, and open it up. Alright, so here we have a couple of components that are exactly what we need. We have a capsule component, which is responsible for the collisions and the physics. We have this arrow component, which shows the forward direction. We have our skeletal mesh and a character movement component. So first, let's add our skeletal mesh. I'm going to select this mesh component, and here in the skeletal mesh asset, we need to add our skeletal mesh. So here, hit Control and space to open up your content browser, and here grab your skeletal mesh and put it here. Let's adjust its height, put it maybe somewhere here, and now we have the asset. And for example, here, if we set this animation mode on animation asset and use our idle animation, you can see that it is using the animation. Now let's put it in the level and see how it looks. Yeah, great. Our character is ready and we are good to go. Here we need to put it somewhere here so his feet touches the ground properly. Somewhere like this will work. Yeah, great. Now we need to create some logic for this guy to be able to chase the player and shoot the player as soon as it can catch the player. So first of all, we don't need to use an animation mode. I just did this to showcase the idea. So let's set it back on use animation blueprint, and later we'll create the animation blueprint that we need for our animation part. For now, I just want to create the chasing logic. So let's go to our events graph, delete these, and next add a custom event and name it run to player. As soon as the game starts, I want to call this here. So drag of a wire, run to player, and that's it. You can directly do your code here in front of your event begin play, but when you do this and then fire off this, it will give you a couple of additional options and it's easier to control your code. So it's a good idea to do this. Great. Now the function I need is called AI move to. Using this, we are able to make the character move to the destination we want or the target actor we want. So first of all, we need to get a reference to self for our pawn. So search for get a reference to self. Next, we need to define a target actor. So get player controller, which is the target actor. And now if I compile and play, nothing happens because we need to add another actor here. Here search for nav mesh bounds volume and drag it into your level, hit P, and here as you can see it has this green area here. This is the area that our character can move inside. So you need to have this in your level and adjust its scale so your character can move freely in your level. Now If I play, you can see that the character is chasing me. Again, let's put him, for example, somewhere here. Hit play. So yeah, it's working properly and we are ready to continue. Here in our AI move to function, we have this acceptance radius. This is the radius. When our character enters, it fires this on success. So for example, let's set it on 6 meters. And on success, let's print you are dead. And on fail, we want it to repeat the chasing. So here I'm going to duplicate this. And now if I compile and play, you can see that when it reaches the radius, it fires off the on success output. Now you can add this to on success so it keeps chasing you after it catches you. And it will work something like this. When I go away, it keeps chasing me. And yeah, I don't need this, so let's delete this and delete this as well. Now it's time to work on our animation blueprint. So we have an animation for this when he starts chasing us. Here in our enemy AI folder, right click, create an animation blueprint. For the skeleton, grab the idle skeleton and create it. Let's name it ABP enemy and open it up. So here we have two sections. First, we have an event graph, and next we have an anim graph. In this section, we define the animation states, and in this section, we define the code. The first thing we need to do is to create a bridge between our animation blueprints and our character blueprint. So here I am going to cast to BP underscore enemy. For the object, I'm going with try get pawn owner. And now we have a direct communication between these two here. So for example, if I define a variable here, a boolean, and name it test boolean, I can access this from my cast node. So this is how we communicate between these two assets. Great. Now let's go back to our BP enemy. And here in our animation, use animation blueprints, and the animation blueprints we want to use is the one that we just created. So set this on animation blueprint enemy. Great. Now here in our animation blueprint, we need to define two states, idle and run. So here for our output pause, I'm going to drag off a wire, search for state machine, and add a state machine here. Let's open it up, and here we can create our states. So drag off a wire from here, add the state, name it idle, add another state, name it run, and here is the transition rule. So this is the rule for transitioning from idle to run, and this is going to be the transition rule from run to idle. So when we are in idle, we want to play the idle animation in loop. So select the animation and check loop animation. And then here in the run, we want to use our standard run animation. And again, it should be on loop. Great. Now we need to define these rules. So when we should go to run state and when we should go to idle state. This is where our communication between the animation blueprint and character blueprint is useful. So here in our character blueprint, when we start running, we want to set our boolean to true. So here, first of all, let's change the name to is running. The default value is false, but as soon as we start chasing the player, we want to set this on true. And after we succeed and we kill the enemy, we want to set this on false. Great. Now we need to read this variable from our animation blueprint. So here in our event graph, I am going to create a variable, name it ABP is running, and then I need to define this based on this variable here. So here I'm going to get is running and then set my ABP is running based on this. Great. Now we need to use this variable here as our transition rules. Here, as you can see, when I hit compile, it gives these warnings and it asks us to create an enter transition rule. So here, for this from idle to run, the transition rule is this. So when this is true, it can enter running. And here from run to idle, the transition is this being equal to false. If it's false, then we can come from run to idle. Great, now let's play. And yeah, here as you can see, we have the run animation, and when it finishes, it goes to idle. But the problem here is that its direction does not match its movement. So let's fix that real quick. First of all, we need to adjust it based on this forward direction. So let's rotate it for 90 degrees. So it matches the forward direction of our character. And next we need to grab the BP enemy and here set orient rotation to movement to true. So the rotation sets based on the movement. Now if I compile and play, you can see it's working properly. Let's set this success radius on something lower so it doesn't stop too soon. And now here, as you can see, the direction of the movement is working properly. Great, now let's attach our assets to our character. So here we have a mask and a pistol. Here I'm going to add a static mesh, and then I'm going to make it a child to this mesh here, and then for the static mesh I'm going to use the mask. Let's adjust the scale and put it on his face. Here we need to disable these so we can work easier. Let's make it smaller like this, rotate it for 90 degrees and put it here. Now if we play, it will float in the air like this, and it doesn't match the movement of the head. So here you can see that the mask is not attached properly. In order to fix that, we need to add a parent socket so it's attached to the bone of the head. So here, as you can see, we have all these bones in the skeletal mesh, and you can also open up your skeletal mesh and here see the bones. Here we can enable the hierarchy of the bones, and now as you can see, we have these bones and the movements are based on these. So here we have the head, top, end. So let's use this as our parent socket. So here in our BP enemy, we want to set the parent of this on head, top, end. Now again, we need to adjust the position. But now here, as you can see, it is moving based on the movement of the head bone. So now it will work properly. Let's adjust the rotation real quick. And now we have the mask. And then we need to repeat the same for the pistol. So here we have the bones for the hands, and for example, we can attach the hands to this here. So it's called right hand middle one. So here, let's duplicate this static mesh. This one is our mask, so let's hit F2 to rename, name it mask, and this one is going to be our pistol. Let's also change the mesh to our pistol, and now we need to change the parent as well. So for this, the parent is top head, and for this we can go with one of these bones here. So let's go with this one, for example. It's right hand middle one. So the parent for this should be right hand middle one. And now let's adjust the position real quick. We can make it a little bigger so it's more visible. The scale is on 0.1. Let's go with 0.11 and something like this can work. Great, now let's see how it looks in the game. Here, as you can see, when it is in idle, it's good, but when it's running, it looks a little weird. So maybe it's better to connect it to another bone. Instead of this middle finger, let's go with the right hand itself and see how that looks. So let's go with right hand. Yeah, now as you can see, it's looking much better and it's natural. Great, and the next step is to make him shoot the player when he is near. So for example, let's set the acceptance radius on 3 meters, and when he reaches this radius, we want him to shoot us. So on success, we want to play this shooting animation. But here, if you play the animation sequence, the blending will not look good and it will look snappy. So here, if I go with a simple play animation, the target is the mesh, and here play the shooting animation, it will look something like this. Here, as you can see, the transition between the running and shooting is not good and it's too snappy. In order to have a blend and make things look better, we need to work with a montage instead of an animation sequence. So here I'm going to right click on my animation sequence, and here in create, I'm going to create an anim montage. Now, if we use an animation montage, we are able to blend in and out of the other animations, and this make things look smoother and cooler. So hit save, and here instead of play animation, let's play montage. The target is still our skeletal mesh, and the montage is the one that we made. But here, if we play, it's not going to work because we need to do another thing to be able to use animation montages. Here, we need to go to our animation blueprints, go to our anim graph, and here we need to add a node. It's called default slot. This enables us to play animation montages. Now that I have this, you can see that the montage will be played. And we have a very smooth and clean transition between the running and also the idle animation for the gun. Great, now let's add a sound effect to our shooting animation as well. So here I have this pistol shot audio. I'm going to import it into the content browser. And now I want to play this in my montage somewhere here. So let's go to frame 5 or 6, for example. Here in my notify track, I'm going to right click, add notify, play sound, and choose the sound. So it's called pistol shot. Let's select pistol shot. And now I have an audio for the shooting as well. Great, and finally we can do a ragdoll effect for our character when he's hit. So let's open up our third person character. Here, create a custom event. Name it death. And for the death, I wanna grab my mesh, then set simulate physics, enable simulate, and also set the collision of the mesh on ragdoll. And now when this is called, this will happen and we will have a death effect. For now, let's just connect it to an event begin play and see if it works properly. Let's add a delay for 2 seconds and test it real quick. Yep, here as you can see, after 2 seconds, the ragdoll is taking place. Now instead of event begin play, we want to use this, and in order to fire this, we need to cast to our third person character from our BP enemy. So here, after we play the montage, we want to cast to BP third person character. For the object, get player character, and here fire the death function. Here it's working, but the function is being fired too soon. So here, instead of this, we can wait for the montage to finish and play it like this. So connect it to uncompleted and see how this looks for now. Now it's too slow. So one thing you can do is to just add this to your play montage, and as soon as we play this, we want to play this, but here we have a small delay, for example 1 second. Okay, 1 is a lot. Let's go with 0.6. And yeah, I think it's looking cool. So now the timing looks great, and as soon as the enemy reaches us, we are dead. Yeah, that's it for this tutorial. This is how easy it is to create a simple enemy AI. If you learned something new from this tutorial, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.